Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Tania, this is my husband Marc, and today's a big day. We're doing framing on our 2500 Promaster van.
Hey, what's up everybody? It's Marc and Tanya, and today, as you can see from my Lowe's and Home Depot haul, is framing day. So Tanya and I have been real excited about this day. It's finally, we get to start putting up some walls and it starts actually looking like a home, and then the next comes cabinets and electrical and stuff like that. So let's show you what we're going to be working on. So we've been deliberating in here for about an hour trying to figure out where to start and what to do. And what we've figured out we're going to do is we will start with the ceiling. And you notice we've taken down the insulation. We had the wool insulation up here, but it was just getting in the way. So we just took it down and we'll put it up after we're done framing. So first thing we wanted to do is make sure that the bottom of these is all at the same height so that the ceiling isn't all wavy. So we've got ourselves this is an 8-foot level, and again, we don't care about the level part because the van is never level. What we care about is the straight edge piece. So I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm going to lay this against here. And I notice it looks good here, 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 and here. Down here, looks like we've got about a 1/4 inch gap, so we've got to account for that. So that's in the middle. We then go to one of the ends, do the same thing. And we've pretty much got the same situation. It's level on 3 and level on 4 of them, and then there's a 1/4 inch gap here. We come to this side. Here we've got a little different situation. We've still got the 1/4 inch gap over here, but it looks like this piece is just a little bit lower because the level is rocking on that. So we've got to make a note that this is probably going to have to be adjusted here so that the ceiling is completely straight. So what we'll do is, we know that this, and this are perfect. We'll go ahead and install those first. This will come later so that we can shave this down to where we need it. And then finally we'll do that last one where we need to build up that extra 1/4 inch on here. First thing we want to do is figure out how long these cross pieces need to be on the ceiling. So what I've done is I've taken a scrap piece of wood, I'm running it along the ceiling, and it stays pretty flat, but at some point you can see it starts to dip down, right? We want to not go that far. So I'm starting about right there. I've made a mark here. On the other side I've done the same thing. And now when I measure between those 2 points, we've got 55.5 inches. So we know we need to cut our 1x3s at 55.5 inches. The next thing to consider is how are we going to attach these things. So we spent a bunch of time last night putting self-drilling screws into here. You can even see the holes. What we got worried about after that is now we've exposed metal in all these places, and I just don't know what the heck that's going to do over time. So what we've decided to do instead is to use plus nuts. So we can take advantage of some of the holes that are already there, and I'll explain how we're going to use the plus nuts, what exactly they are, and how we're going to do them in a minute, but it's a different way to fasten these things. Now you'll notice also that we had to take down the insulation. If you've been following along, we had insulation up, got in the way, so it's gone. So we'll put that back up after all this is done. So we've got our wood cut. Let's go ahead and get started with attaching them. Let me explain to you what a plus nut is. So it looks like this, and these things are super strong. So basically what happens is you put it into a hole in the roof. You've got a special tool that crunches it down. As it crunches down, these wings right here flare out, and it makes a super strong connection up into the roof that you can then screw into. Let me show you how this works. So this is the tool you're going to need. It's called an Astro 1450. I think there's a way to actually do this without these. It takes long enough with it, so I can't imagine how long it takes without it. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to find a hole in the van. So luckily the Promasters have these holes already pre-drilled, and you can see the plus nut fits right in it. We're going to thread the plus nut onto this. Now this comes with multiple attachments. This end point, you can change the size of that. Basically I screw the plus nut on, I open the jaws up, I go here, and then I start to close the jaws. And if it's too tight, I'll loosen this a little bit. Now you can see it's in there, it's not coming out, but it's kind of wobbling a little bit. That's okay. Tighten this screw up a bit, this wheel, and do it again. Tighten the wheel again. Do it again. And now you can see it's pretty tight in there. Once it's done, you can basically back this out and you've got a solid place to put a 1420 bolt. So that's pretty firm in there. We'll put one at each of these locations. Then what we'll do is we'll drill into the wood, drive a bolt up through the wood in through here. So let's get the rest of the riv nuts in, or the plus nuts in, and we'll go from there.
So while Mark is busy working on the framing on the interior of the van, I've decided that I'd like to spray paint these plastic pieces that come from the interior of the van. Some of them are from the floor, some of them are from the door panels. I am kind of inside of the garage. It's a little bit windy, so I have all the pieces down on a piece of cardboard. I've got Rust-Oleum satin finish spray paint, and I have gloves. So I'm gonna spray these up and get them ready for sprayed all the plastic pieces. Now I'm just gonna let it sit and dry. I did end up closing the garage door because it is a little bit windy out there, and I just didn't want any debris or dirt to get blown in from the outside. So I'm just gonna let it sit and dry, and we'll take a look at it in a little bit.
We've gone ahead and put some marks on the wood to show where we have to drill. So we've showed the center line everywhere. We've got a hole in the van. We're probably not going to use all of them. We'll probably use this one, these two, and these two. We really don't need that many plus nuts in here because they're super strong. So we'll make a 1/4-inch hole so that the bolt can go through, and then we'll use the spade bit to be able to countersink the head. Now another thing to consider is what kind of these are you going to use. These come in a bunch of different materials. You can use zinc, you can use galvanized, stainless steel. These are the stainless steel, which is the most expensive, but it's actually the best one for us to use. So galvanized means it's coated with a coating that will not rust. The problem is as soon as that coating gets scratched off, what's underneath is completely susceptible to rust. Stainless steel doesn't rust, so you're best off using these. They're kind of hard to find in the store. I had a heck of a time finding these, but they typically should be at all your big box stores, and we'll put a link to them down below to show you the ones we use. So we're going to start by drilling actually we'll start with the spade bit. And what we'll do is we'll make a hole to countersink the heads. Now that we've got that done, we're going to take out this bit and we're going to drill a hole for the bolts using a 1/4-inch drill bit. All right, screws are in. Countersunk for the head, and now we're going to go start putting these bolts in place and screwing them into the van. So my beautiful wife was smart enough to remind me that I haven't been wearing these, so definitely wear these. I didn't have to drill anything in the ceiling, so I forgot to put them on, but you only get one set of these, so probably good idea to treat them well.
Yes. This is the hard part, in my opinion.
All right.
So
we've labeled which side is up, so we know that the wood goes this way.
Yeah.
We've put the screws where they're supposed to go, and now we've got to hope that they all line up.
Okay.
You see how all 5 of those lined up? That has never happened before. Am I right?
Yeah.
Never happened.
First time for everything.
Yeah, so you just go ahead thinking we do everything perfect and it always lines up. Never happened. We've got 3 of the pieces on so far on the roof, and what we want to do is check to make sure they are all the same height. Again, when you use this, you're not using it for the bubble. You care less because the van could be at all sorts of angles, so we don't care if it's level. What we care about is that all 3 pieces line up. That way the ceiling pieces are nice and straight. So we'll go ahead, we'll put this at the end. We're good, and here we are good. Then we'll move to the middle while the big Amazon truck parks right behind us. And those 3 are good. We'll move to this end. And looks like we are good here as well. Okay, so those 3 are good. We'll go ahead and put this one on next, and we'll shave off what we need to make it level here, and then we'll get to the end. So the first thing we've done is we've gone ahead and marked on the beam itself where we could actually drill holes into. So this one's already drilled, so we'll take advantage of that. We'll put a plus nut here. We'll probably put a plus nut here. We'll take advantage of this hole and put a plus nut here, and we'll probably try to add a couple out here as well, so 5 in total. So what we've got to do now is transfer those measurements onto our wood. So what we will do is center this as best we can. And then we will mark the first thing we'll do is we'll transfer those markings from the ceiling across the length of our wood. 6. We'll then find the center of those, which is much easier to do when it's sitting flat on a table rather than up there. Okay, so with our 3/8 bit and my glasses, thank you, Tania, I'm going to drill through these to get the hole started. Now with the bit still on, we're going to transfer these to the van.
That's why it's helpful to have an assistant.
Yes.
So now that we have a bunch of holes, actually, because we did the insulation, we had stuffed insulation inside these beams, and when Marc was drilling the holes, the insulation was getting wrapped around the drill bit and preventing us from making a really good hole. So we pulled out all the insulation, which took us about half hour to do, just on this one beam. And now I'm going over it with some Rust-Oleum just to make sure for rust, just to kind of protect it.
So if any of you have an Italian grandfather, you've used this before, right? So we've got to carve down some of this wood to fit on one side of the van because it's a little too thick, so I'm going to use a plane. My grandfather, with this and this, he pretty much put the whole van together, but we're a little more high-tech, so that's what we're doing. we give it a shot. And maybe we gotta plane more. Next piece we try to screw in. Hopefully it's gonna work. Alright, that one's in. Fourth piece is in, and we'll do the level test again. That's good. That's good. Here was the spot we were worried about. It's okay there. A slight bit of rocking here. So what we might do is just take a block of sandpaper, some pretty coarse sandpaper, and just run it over here till about here to the end until it completely flattens out. And we'll move on from there.
And that's how that's done.
What we want to do is start building out the ceiling here. So I cut these 3 pieces of wood around here and around this curve. So one is going to fit over here nice and neat. We will fit another one between here, and then the other one will be a mirror image of that, and it'll sit right here. We're going to glue those in and let them sit overnight, and then tomorrow we'll come down and we'll start building off of that. We're also going to do the same thing in the front. So when we glue, we're coming just past this lip right here. We're really starting right at that edge, so the wood sits nice and flat. 3 pieces are up. These brackets, these pieces of wood are in place to hold them up overnight, and we will just leave them, and tomorrow morning we'll come back and we'll start adding more wood to bring it in line with these things. So it should be, we should have one nice continuous level across the ceiling, hopefully.
So the headliner is really yucky from the previous owner, and Marc and I have got this material that we're going to cover it with, and we also have some adhesive, headliner adhesive that we're going to spray. But first we are going to kind of just cut this out just so that the material is a little bit more manageable, making sure I have at least a couple inches around. I'm going to take this and flip it over. Like that. We'll start at one end and we'll spray the adhesive and just work our way down to the other end.
Here is our finished headliner. Looks much better.
Ta-da! All right.
Now we
Come on,
install
let's
it.
Install it.
In.
Yay! Yay!
Look at that.
did it.
Whoa!
Hey!
Last thing for the day. What we're going to do is basically repeat in the front what we did in the back. So for this last framing piece for the ceiling, I've seen a lot of people screw into this right through the headliner. My problem with that is if we ever have to take the headliner off, there's a bunch of wires under it. If we ever have to get it out, now we've got to pull part of the ceiling apart, which we don't want to do. So we're actually going to build this final piece right here in front of the headliner, and the roof will, the ceiling will end just before the headliner starts. You won't see this edge, but it'll be completely accessible. Now, I'd like to be able to lay one flat piece of wood, one by 2 across here. The problem is there's nowhere to screw into. It's the roof, so we can't screw, we can't bolt. So what we're going to do is put little pieces of wood at 5 different places to basically approximate the curve of the roof, and then we'll hold those in place overnight, and tomorrow we will glue into those once they're really set. So basically, a little block of wood, some adhesive, we find the center, and we're going to start. So these have had a chance to dry overnight, and they are pretty solid. They're not going anywhere. So now we've got to build down from there. So my first thought was to use, again, 1 by 2, 3/4 inch pine. The problem is you really got to bend it quite a bit to match the curvature of the roof, right? And these are only held on by glue. So the stresses that I create by bending this are now fighting against that glue, and I don't want it to pop out ever. So luckily, I've got some, I could probably cut some slits into the top side of this to kind of make it a little more bendable. But luckily, I've got some PVC, the same dimensions. So this stuff bends real easy. It's really solid. So this is 3/4 by, this is 1 by 3 PVC trim. I can put this up there, and it easily takes on the curvature of the roof. Then I'll put the 1/4 inch poplar on top of it, and that should give us an even surface all along the length of the van. And then we'll repeat the same process up front by the headliner, and we'll be done. So now we're going to check to make sure everything is straight all the way across the ceiling. Beautiful. Now I'm going this way. Nice. Now we're going this way. I could probably use a little tip taken off, but other than that, pretty darn good. I'd say we're good.
The roof is all done. Yay!
So this actually came out good. It took us a while to figure out how to do all the uneven parts, but I think we've got it. It looks good. It's all nice and even. And you got to use a nail gun for the first time.
I know. It was awesome. It was awesome. I love that. I love that.
Nice.
All right, so the next project we're going to be doing is the sides, and then we'll work our way down. So stay tuned for that.
If you like what you saw, we hope you'll hit the like button, and please feel free to subscribe if you want to follow along on our entire van build journey. If you have a comment, you probably know how we could have done this better. Go ahead and leave it below, and we'd love to hear from you. And that is it. We will see you next time.
Bye.